Will Councilmember Raul Campillo and his family please join me? I would like to congratulate him on his re-election to continue to serve the people of District 7. Grossmont Healthcare District Director for Zone 3, Nadia Farjoud, will administer the oath of office to Councilmember Campillo.
Here's a symphony hall.
Let's do this.
All right.
I, Raul Campillo,
I, Raul Armando Campillo,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter. Good morning, my fellow San Diegans. Before I share my remarks on a second term, I want to thank the people who've done so much to make my first term a success. I want to thank the voters of District 7, my constituents, for whom this job is really all about, for entrusting me with a second term. This job is the best job in the world because while the work is a reward in itself, the ability to improve my neighbors' lives is a palpably enjoyable endeavor, and I treasure the moments I'm able to do that. In this first term, from doubling paid parental leave for city workers and ensuring we have project labor agreements with our city contracts, making it easier to permit mental health and detox beds, and fighting hate crimes with a new state law, thanks to Assemblymember Chris Ward's leadership, and delivering more miles of pavement in District 7 than in any other four-year period, thank you, Mayor Gloria, and dozens of new acres to Mission Trails Regional Park. I'm proud of the work we championed and the city workers who delivered it. I want to thank my tireless staff. The reason I was reelected without an opponent even filing the paperwork to run against us is because my staff is so good at what they do. It's not because my name ID is really high. To Vic and Sana, Carrie and Summer and Crane, Miles and Anthony, Cheryl and Emma, and to Jared, Jessica, Sophie and Justine, who served earlier in my office, I thank you. But Michael Simonson, my chief of staff, the leader I needed as a new elected official 4 years ago, he had served many elected officials and organizations in San Diego, and when I hired him, I was told by many that he was a Hall of Fame selection, and they were right. So Michael, I salute you. Thank you for all your good work. But the people who helped me stay grounded and focused day after day, my mom Teresa, my dad Alex, and most of all my wife Nadia. I have to say, if you've ever heard something I've said and thought it was correct, almost every time I ran it past Nadia first and she made it better. And in the last 4 years, she agreed to marry me, she planned our wedding, she gave birth to our son Rafael, she won 2 campaigns for office, and she taught our son to say Papa. Nadia, I said when we got married, and I'll say it all the days of my life, I believe in God and I believe in family, and my belief in both is vindicated in you and now in Rafael. I love you. Now to the meat and potatoes of the speech, which really goes back to my dad telling me when I have something to say, make sure you say it powerfully. We turn to the reality of governing. The day-to-day and the day-by-day prospect of keeping our residents safe and maintaining our neighborhood infrastructure and creating a local economy that gives opportunities to those who work hard and play by the rules. If we're to speak truth about ourselves as a city, we must acknowledge there's some things a city can do well and other things it cannot. To invoke my favorite Shakespearean aphorism, this above all, to thine own self be true. So let's tell the truth. And let's start with Measure E. The truth is that Measure E would have single-handedly solved our budget woes for the first time in decades, but it failed by 3,506 votes. It's also the truth that despite our budget woes, we have ways to bridge that gap if we are strategic and are committed to key priorities. Our budget has been principally undermined by several decisions of people who are not on this stage over the last several decades. Decisions by city leaders and by county leaders over the last 20 years. And I want to spend a little bit of time on historical context. In November 2002, everyone knows this history, the city council then doubled down on a mistake it had made a few years prior. It stared at a budget deficit like we're doing right now, but instead of responsibly asking for a new revenue source like we did, this council and this mayor, our then leaders raided the pension on the consent agenda, nonetheless, which spurred federal investigation, destroyed the public's trust in us as a government for a generation. They denigrated honorable public service servants who were revealing the problem, and it caused our liabilities to balloon so badly that mayors and councils have been struggling with resources. And that led to undermining of our own city workforce and left our neighborhoods' infrastructure to crumble. To improve the lives of our workforce and restore that infrastructure, that was the primary reason I proposed and why I needed to propose Measure E. To be true to the voters and put before them something that would honestly and responsibly solve the budget deficit to deliver safety and infrastructure and economic progress. Now, while the city leaders in the 2000s put us in that deep hole, the Board of Supervisors, for decades, was more concerned about its own savings account than delivering health and human services. So the city filled that leadership gap on homelessness issues. It then became the expectation that the city would just keep doing this. But let's also be clear, to thine own selves be true. Our city charter does not require, and history does not necessarily reflect that the city should actually do that. The county must step up finally to take its legal responsibility to address health and human services for the homeless problem in our county. Let's be very clear, their funding streams are far more flexible than ours, and their legal authority is far more clear to handle it. The city should be building parks and libraries, firehouses and police divisions. The county should be building shelters and units to address homelessness. I want to give a little credit where it's due. I have to say, Supervisor Anderson, he and I share a lot of territory, and we've worked together, our staffs, to have some progress and shared area in our district, and I thank him for his pragmatic approach. But until the county changes, the city will be stuck. They have the leaders, they simply need to be true to themselves and do the work. And between 17 other cities and the county government, the incentives are all misaligned, and the effort is shirked onto the 10 of us. Mayor Gloria has stated this repeatedly. I appreciate his leadership on it, and I look forward to working with him to hold those other leaders accountable. Now, here's why this history matters. 99% of your daily lives, of our daily lives, is affected by the city government. But roughly 87% of your sales and property tax dollars go to Sacramento and the county, respectively. Now let's think about this. Police and fire and lifeguards, your trash, your potholes, your sidewalks, your parks, your libraries, your street lights, all of the water, potable and waste and storm, the permits you need to build housing or renovate your business, and even your business licenses, that's all the city. But we have two other governments that take away 87% of most of the taxes you pay. And in that context, I have to salute the city workers who've done so much with relatively so little. Let's give our city workers a hand of applause. The next 4 years will tell us, and more than that, it will tell the voters, if city leaders and those who we work with are going to tell you the truth and focus on what is right, or if we'll have another cycle, hopefully not another generation, of the same old. A change of approach is needed, and if that does not happen, a changing of the guard will be merited if it isn't already. The structural problems we inherited, the old way of business, the old way of budgeting, the old way of politics doesn't serve you anymore. So, I will be bringing back the 1-cent sales tax for voters' consideration this next election cycle. Instead of doing what leaders did in the past, which is turn tail and run from the responsible solutions to our problems, or worse, forget the past altogether and hope the voters do too, I commit to our residents and our city workers, I will fight for doing what the city is good at. I hope that that last 3,506 voters who voted no on Measure E will observe us listening to them over the next 2 years and delivering on what we are good at when we focus on it, because I certainly will be. To earn their trust, our residents want to see us focus on what we're legally obligated to do, which not coincidentally, we are very good at doing when we have the funding. Let's start with what we're great at. You know what we're great at? We're great at public safety in this city. We are the second safest big city in America, and we do it for hundreds of millions of dollars less than Los Angeles and San Francisco. And while there's many reasons for that, the biggest one is that the San Diego Police Department is well-trained and mission-driven to keep us safe. And when criminals know that we have a great department, they take their criminality elsewhere. It really is as simple as that. Now, we have to address key issues of staffing, property crimes, responses, things like that. But fundamentally, we have a very, very low crime rate. And that's because the strongest prevention against people who are ready to commit crimes is having a police department that can stop them, and they do it. Thank you very much for your service. I do want to make one quick point about public safety as well. We must not destroy the independence of the city attorney's office, and I will never vote to eliminate an independent branch of our city government that can hold councils and mayors accountable. And I challenge anyone to explain why the council should have more political control over our lawyers instead of the voters having their watchdog. Also, why would we want to bust a union workforce that saves us taxpayer dollars, prevents gun violence, and holds criminals accountable? This idea is a distraction. It should be permanently shelved because it does not save us money. It just costs us more with the public trust. I stand with our city attorneys and our deputy city attorneys. You know what else we're good at? We're good at neighborhood infrastructure. We have some world-class parks, and we should have many more. We have one of the most robust library and archive systems, and we need upgrades. And when we dedicate the funding, we can pave thousands of miles of road and fix thousands of streetlights like we have for the past 4 years. But when they're neglected for 20 to 30 years, catching up can be a tall task. So let's fix more neighborhood infrastructure. And the last thing, we're okay at it. In fact, we are pretty good in some respects, but we could be far better. Spurring a strong economic environment, and at the core of that is the first two things, safety and infrastructure, because a safe community with stable infrastructure encourages spending, it encourages investment, it reduces the cost of living. We have to remember that the safer we are and the more our infrastructure is fixed, the lower insurance rates will be, the repair costs will go down for our residents, and we face reduced litigation costs. Safety and infrastructure makes things affordable. But the city can do one thing very specifically to support our economy. We could help all of our businesses and homeowners get their permits far faster. I believe we have to take a clue from some other cities around the country with a model of self-certification for a wide array of projects like the city of Phoenix has done. We're delaying investment by our family-owned small businesses and world-class institutions alike by passing piecemeal policies. We gotta make it easier. Small businesses don't need the city hovering over their shoulder when they move a refrigerator from one wall to the next. And the big contractors, well, they have the insurance and the contractors and consultants and lawyers to ensure they're building the developments correctly, but the permits still take years. If we helped businesses with self-certification policies and paired it together with strong labor standards, this collaboration would mean several things. High-quality jobs, quicker quality construction, and homes we need to be built and the improvement to the businesses you all run. Affordability and economic opportunity and investor appeal in our region, our city could be great at that. And we would not have to increase density regulations even 1 iota to get things done based on the policies we already have. We wouldn't have to tell community planning groups that they need to accept more policies. That matters to me as well. And I believe strongly, and I think we all know inherently, if we focus on public safety, infrastructure, and strengthening our local economy, the reverberating benefits will reduce homelessness too. Focusing on what you're good at tends to make the whole set of other things better as well. If we reaffirm our dedication to these three tasks, protecting the public safety and building infrastructure and getting people their permits to spur economic growth and creating great jobs, we will restore trust in government. We can break the cycle of budgetary constraints we've faced so long. We can alter the culture of our politics. So I ask you this, do you want to build a safe city, an infrastructurally sound city, a thriving economic city? This above all, to our own selves be true. I ask you all to be partners in building this true city. And the idea of a true city, that's my vision and my mission for San Diego, not just for the next 4 years, the next 40 years, the city that my son Raphael will inherit. It is a model of governance that works. It's a model of governance that our residents want, and I will work to deliver it. Thank you.